Hello. Good evening to all of you. And on behalf of CA Sri Lanka, I would like to welcome all of you to today's session on assignment. And we also take this opportunity to thank our consultant for sparing his valuable time to provide you all with guidance for the upcoming assignment. And we hope that you all will get the maximum benefit out of today's session, and it will be a rewarding experience for all of you, and we wish you every success at your examination. Thank you, and over to our consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening all. Let me congratulate all of you for completing many subjects of your Chartered Accountancy program. And you have reached the final stages of your qualification. I'm a Chartered Accountant by profession, a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Let me first spell out the objective of today's webinar and my role. As you all know, SL5, the integrated case study, has two components, the case study and the assignment. It's requested by the Institute's examination department to conduct a guiding session on SL5 assignment. Therefore, my role today is to take you through the important aspects of the assignment and guide you to produce a successful assignment answer. Please remember, I will not be disclosing the assignment answer. Instead, I will be guiding you to produce a better answer. After my presentation, probably 1 to 1.5 hours time, you can send your questions and you can use the chat option, question and answer option to ask your questions. Well, before I start, may I ask you a question? How many participants we have right now? 190 plus. Out of 190 participants, do I have candidates who have not read the assignment so far? If you have not read, please use the chat box and update me. Right. This is not to penalize anyone. Okay. Few students have not read it since. Okay, it seems majority have read it, and that's very good, and that shows your interest. And if I'm not mistaken, this was uploaded on 28th September, so you all had almost 7 to 8 days. So if you have read it, it will be very easy to understand, right? Otherwise, if you are seeing it first time, you need time to go through it and understand what is inside the case, the assignment. The contents of this presentation. Assignment brief. assessment criteria, general instructions, report structure, common mistakes, executive summary, introduction, analysis and discussion, conclusion, reference list, resources, and time for questions. The assignment. Our topic is the chemical fertilizer and agrochemical importation ban in Sri Lanka. The challenges faced by Sri Lankan agribusiness organizations and the economic impact. Well, if you have read the assignment carefully, you must be familiar with these important areas. Part 1, the amount of foreign currency spent on fertilizer importation and the cost of fertilizer subsidy of year 2019 and 2020 by the government of Sri Lanka. The figures are actually given in the assignment: $221.1 million in year 2019 and $258.9 million in 2020. The government of Sri Lanka's decision to ban all imports of inorganic fertilizer and the use of pesticides. Pesticide is insect killer chemicals. Third important area, the government of Sri Lanka's objectives in terms of minimizing the negative effects on human lives due to the use of inorganic fertilizer, which is chemical fertilizer, and pesticides, and anticipated savings of the chemical fertilizer import ban. Fourth point, the government of Sri Lanka's plan to protect the livelihood of farmers as well as consumers. Next, the opinion of the healthcare sector experts, the importance of having non-toxic diet. Toxic-free diet. And the last, so if you take the assignment, this is the assignment at a glance. These are the most important areas of your assignment. What you need to do, assume that you are a business analyst of one of the largest plantation companies in Sri Lanka. Your company has been exporting agricultural exports since Sri Lanka gained independence and has earned a remarkable name in the international market for its superior product quality and uninterrupted supply. The managing director of your company has been invited to address a directors forum organized by the Exporters Association of Sri Lanka. The theme of the forum is the chemical fertilizer and agrochemical importation ban in Sri Lanka, the challenges faced by Sri Lankan agribusiness organizations, and the economic impact. The managing director is an eminent scientist and has been in the agribusiness industry for more than 3 decades. He seeks your assistance to prepare himself for the forum. Continue. Prepare a comprehensive report on the theme captioned above, including the financial implications of the ban. These paragraphs have very important points. Those are necessary for you to structure your answer. So now you are a business analyst. Let me highlight those. You are a business analyst and working for a large plantation company. And your company has been exporting agricultural products. And you have a good name in the international market for 2 reasons: superior product quality and uninterrupted supply. Your MD was invited to address a forum, a directors forum, organized by the Exporters Association. On the topic, we know what is the topic, and he is a scientist. Now, you are a business analyst, and therefore your proposals should mainly be based on numbers, the financials, the economic impacts. Your company, as I said, is an exporting company. So why do you think the examiner or the paper setter has indicated this? This is for you to basically analyze the export revenue of the country, the impact on export revenue of the country. We will discuss the key economic, key export revenue figures later. That's a directors forum. This is to understand the MD's audience. He will be addressing the directors of export companies. Suppose his audience is your own company shareholders or employees, then the facts and figures should only be limited to your own company. But this is different. He'll be addressing the directors of export companies. So that is why I said certain terms of these paragraphs are very important for you to structure your report. Guidelines taken again from your assignment, last part. You could follow the guidelines below However, your answer does not need to be limited to them only. A few guidelines are given by the paper setter. You can certainly make use of these guidelines. Number one, during this current pandemic situation, all nations around the globe are giving utmost priority to ensure domestic food security. How can Sri Lanka face and overcome this challenge? Number two, an evaluation between the expected economic benefits of the importation ban and the possible production losses and economic losses thereon. Number three, to what extent can Sri Lankan economy absorb the loss of production, reduction of agricultural export revenue, and the possible incremental food importation cost? Number four, the impact of foreign currency conversion rates and foreign currency reserves of Sri Lanka due to the possible increase in imports. And the last one, the future of plantation companies, possible challenges and strategies for managing those challenges to enhance sustainable business growth. This says be limited to them only. What does this mean? You need to think out of the box to score more marks. Assessment criteria. This is also given there in the question with the assignment. 10 marks will be allocated to the executive summary. The most important part, the discussion and analysis area, discussion of the chemical fertilizer and agrochemical importation ban, challenges and economic impact. 65% of your marks. Then recommendation and conclusions, which has 20%. General report writing skills, 5%. General instructions. Well, these instructions are given by the CA examinations. Allowed under any circumstances, use the Harvard system referencing. The contemporary issue assignment word count should be 3,000 words with 10% variation on either side. 10% variation plus or minus. 3,000 is the standard count. Paper size A4. Printing margins, left hand side, right hand side, 1 inch. Binding margin, 1/2 inch. Header and footer, 1 inch. Basic font size 12. Line spacing 1.5. Font style Times New Roman. More details can be obtained from SL5 study text. The report structure. This is the recommended report structure. Title page, table of contents, acknowledgements, executive summary, introduction, review of the literature, analysis and discussion, as I said, the most important area, recommendations and conclusions, then the reference list, finally, appendices, if appropriate, if necessary. The broad areas of your report is illustrated in section D of your study text, but I have included the table of content and the recommendation part and the reference list to the list given in your study text. So you can follow this format. Common mistakes. I have seen these common mistakes and therefore please avoid those. Incorrect format, incorrect references, unclear abbreviation with no explanation, poor academic writing, descriptive discussions or statements, incorrect and inappropriate quotations. Please do not purchase reports. Do not use, reproduce previous reports. Someone else's reports. You know, the marking examiners are very smart. They will be able to identify it easily. Therefore, please do not purchase reports. So let's discuss each of the important report sections separately, important ones only. I will not spend a lot of time on these areas as I need to save time to discuss the main part, the analysis and discussion area. This is executive summary. The executive summary should have a few paragraphs of your main findings and the recommendations briefly. Do not get too lengthy or wordy. Please avoid these things. Do not cut and paste information from the main body. Avoid excessive subtitles and lists. Do not get too technical in the executive summary. Do not use imprecise language. That is a vague language. Do not use a vague language. These are the areas you should avoid in the executive summary. The introduction should contain, very importantly, the objectives of your report and understanding of the arguments relevant to the contemporary issue. That's the introduction. So let's move to the main part of the report quickly. The literature review. that is the theories and findings that can support your argument. You can find descriptive answers and analyze the following areas. Why use fertilizer on crops? Why we use? In terms of agricultural science, why use fertilizer on crops? In terms of agricultural science, what do you think? That is to get essential plant nutrients. Those nutrients are required for crops just as people. Now we take food. What are major plant nutrients? You must have heard these days, you know, many articles, many TV interviews. Main ingredients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It's a kind of a cycle. Now, when a crop is harvested, say paddy or vegetable, when a crop is harvested and its yield is taken, a large amount of nutrition is taken from the soil. So by applying fertilizer, what we do is we replace its lost nutrition. That is what we do by applying fertilizer. You know, one might ask why a forest does not require an external input kind of a fertilizer. One might ask that question. Can someone guess what is the reason we don't put fertilizer to the forest? What is the reason? Because nutrients are not taken out of the system. Nutrients in dead leaves or branches and roots, trees are recycled back to the soil. We are not taking anything out from the forest. That is why we don't need to add fertilizer to the forest. Whereas in the farm, what we do is we take the crop out and we consume it. So naturally, there is a requirement for us to replace those nutrients. Why use fertilizer on crops in terms of agricultural science? Inorganic fertilizer usage and the productivity. I guess as we all can understand, the portion of nutrients in a unit, say 100 grams of organic fertilizer, organic, is lower than chemical fertilizer. The portion of nutrients in the unit of organic fertilizer is lower than chemical fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer. Therefore, we need a greater quantity of organic fertilizer than chemical fertilizer to get the same amount of nutrients. That is why we have to put more. And also, the chemical fertilizer releases its nutrients quickly to the soil compared to organic fertilizer. Now, Sri Lanka is said to be self-sufficient in terms of its rice production. Approximately 1.8 million farm families are engaged in paddy cultivation in the country. 1.8 million families. And we currently produce more than 5 million metric tons of rough rice annually. So those are the results of using chemical fertilizer. Now come back to organic. Why organic is important in terms of agricultural science? Now, as I explained earlier, the nutrients of chemical fertilizer is released immediately to the soil compared to inorganic fertilizer. So a considerable amount of those nutrients leaked into groundwater. This is as per the scientist. After that, the consumption of those groundwater can cause major. In economic terms, most of these chemical fertilizers are produced by multinational companies of industrialized and developed countries. So these are very expensive for farmers in developing countries such as us. So mainly due to these reasons, there's been a drive towards reduction of the use of inorganic fertilizer, which is naturally replaced by organic fertilizer due to these reasons. Analysis and discussion, the most important section. The objectives of the government's decision, qualitative objectives and quantitative objectives. What are the main objectives of this decision? If I remember right, this decision was taken in April 2021, and the government had many reasons behind this decision. Number one, in accordance with the national policy framework, the right of people to non-toxic diet must be guaranteed by the government. So that's the number one reason given by the government. Another objective was to minimize the loss of livelihoods of people living in rural areas. From what? From weakening their health conditions due to the usage of chemical fertilizer. Another objective was to minimize the destruction of biodiversity of soil due to the excessive usage of chemical fertilizer, and to protect the environment as well. The last but not least, to control and minimize the government expenditure on importation cost, as well as to control the cost incurred on certain diseases such as kidney and cancer. We call it as non-communicable diseases. Now, remember to illustrate important facts and figures when you are analyzing the quantitative objectives, facts and figures. The second part, a numerical analysis of fertilizer importation cost, the cost of fertilizer subsidy, and the quantity imported. The cost side. As indicated earlier, the government has spent $221.4 to import chemical fertilizer in year 2019 and spent a further $258 million in 2020. And it is expected to be within $300 million to $400 million in the future due to high fuel price. So you need to collect and illustrate historical data in terms of, say, quantity of chemical fertilizer imported and the cost of such imports and the cost of government fertilizer subsidy. So you need to find those figures. The presentation is very important to get the marking examiner's attention. Be always innovative in your analysis. A trend analysis or a graphical presentation can be attractive. So I don't need to spell out those. You need to be innovative in presenting your historical data. Next, a numerical analysis of the negative consequences caused on human lives and to the environment through the excessive usage of chemical fertilizer and pesticides. What are the negative consequences on human lives? What new consequences may occur in the future? As I described earlier, the use of chemical fertilizer pollutes rivers and underground water, especially because of the use of pesticides, chemical. Now, as per the health sector experts, non-communicable diseases such as kidney disease are increasing every year, number of cases. So you might need to gather the statistics of the Ministry of Health to analyze this area. There was a study done by International Water Management Institute, IWMI, that was in December 2019. They revealed that in Sri Lanka, around 150,000 people that time have been affected by chronic kidney disease. So you need to find statistics to prove your point. Next, the global position of organic agriculture. Now, organic part. The global position. The organic agriculture represents a very small fraction of global agriculture today. The organic part is very small, maybe less than 5%. This particular drive towards the reduction of chemical fertilizer began in developed countries as well as in some developing countries in 1980. Now, during certain periods, some countries were forced to use organic fertilizer because of political circumstances. Good example is Cuba. And Bhutan developed a plan in year 2012 and to be fully organic by year 2020. That was their original plan, Bhutan. However, they could not achieve their target, and the plan is on Nepal, Mexico, and Australia. Those countries too have gone into certain level of the organic usage of organic fertilizer, and therefore you can investigate and collect data, information of those countries to identify their success stories as well as their failures. A numerical analysis of direct financial benefits of importation ban. This part can be linked with the previous numerical analysis of fertilizer importation cost. We have already discussed the numerical analysis of fertilizer importation cost and the cost of subsidy, because the total ban will save the importation cost. As a country, as a whole, we will be able to save that amount of money if there is a total ban. The next is very important. A numerical analysis of negative financial consequences of importation ban. Negative. There are 3 points. Estimated yield reduction in export agricultural crops, and thereby the reduction in annual export earnings, the position of balance of payment, etc. Subpoint 2, the anticipated decline in crop and its economic impact. Example, paddy, other field crops, and vegetable cultivation. And the last one, possible incremental food importation cost. So how much is our GDP? 2020? Yeah, good. Very good. The GDP of year 2020 is approximately 81 billion US dollars. Approximately in terms of LKR, 14,973 or 15,000 billion approximately in LKR. What is the composition of our GDP? That is the important part. As we all know, the service sector is the biggest area, approximately 58 to 60%. Then the industrial sector, which is around 25 to 26%, and the agriculture sector in 2020, it was around 8%. Take some of the major crops in Sri Lanka for your analysis. Example, paddy or rice as a consumable crop, and tea as an export agricultural crop. So I'm giving you examples only. You can decide which crop to take, provided you have sufficient historical data to do a future analysis, a trend analysis kind of a thing. So for my example, I took paddy and tea. Because paddy and tea are important to national food security as well as to the economy. As per the scientist, it is very likely that the productivity will decline significantly in the future. That is what the scientists say. The productivity loss. As per them, this is due to the absence of chemical fertilizer. What is productivity? It is the economic harvest per unit of land area. The output per unit of land area. So this will lead to a decline in our total production. Those scientists, they further say that Sri Lanka does not have sufficient readily available organic fertilizer to meet our demand. This situation is similar to other crops as well. Crops such as vegetables, fruits, or other industrial crops. Situation is similar there as well. How much is our export revenue approximately? Export revenue. Not that much. Well, in 2020, it was around 10 billion US dollars. Yes, I got the second answer correctly. 10 billion US dollars, as against in 2019, it was 12 billion. 2019, it was good, but due to the pandemic, country reported 10 billion approximately export revenue in 2020. Again, the composition is important. In 2020, out of 10 billion US dollars, the agriculture sector, agriculture and other sector contribution was 2.4 billion US dollars. Whilst the balance of 7.7 billion US dollars from industrial sector. So as a country, as per the latest figures, we have earned 2.4 billion US dollars from agricultural and other sector. A few other areas where you need to pay your attention. The effect on macroeconomic indicators such as inflation, foreign exchange rates, and interest rates. the impact on the livelihood of farmers and other stakeholders of agribusiness industry, the implications on local agribusiness organizations. Critically evaluate the timing of the decision. This is one of the guidelines of the assignment as well, the timing, whether we are in the correct time to do a major change of this nature. The foreign, if you take, for example, foreign exchange rate, before the current pandemic and how it has changed during the pandemic. And what will happen to the exchange rate if there is a significant export drop? And if there is an increase in food imports, what will happen to the exchange rate? And what will happen to the inflation? So these are the areas, other areas where you need to pay your attention and analysis is required. The recommendations and conclusion. Excellent conclusion on the chemical fertilizer and agrochemical importation ban in Sri Lanka. That's our topic, with supportive justifications. You need to summarize your findings. If you can get a real world example, a suitable model and successful practices developed by other countries, suitable for our environment. A suitable model, right? We can't simply take what is being practiced in Australia or some other developed country. So you need to find a suitable model which can be applied in our conditions. Recommendations are very important. There are so many. I will briefly tell you later the areas where you need to, get information. So many scientists have given their own recommendations. What type of method is more suitable for a country like Sri Lanka? And how should this be done? And within how long? And the period, everything they have discussed. So, you all have done accounts. The examiner, the marking examiner is not expecting you to produce a report which has more agricultural science, because your object clearly define your objectives of the report. As a business analyst, what should you do? Because your managing director is a scientist. So he will be doing, because he has all these data in terms of agricultural science. So he will do that part quite nicely. But what you have to do is to support him by giving the financial data. So recommendation is also very important. A very important point, dear candidates, no politics, please. Please do not criticize or oppress decisions from a political viewpoint, right? We don't want to see that at all. Clear instructions are given by the paper setter to marking examiners. You are not supposed to criticize or oppress political agendas or politicians, ideas. So take the policy. What you need to analyze is, as accountants, find implications, right? the politicians or decision makers will take that decision. We can't. What you have to do is analyze it and show this is what is going to happen. Whether this is good, if it is good, what are those good areas? And these are the facts to support that. And if it is bad in terms of financial, economics, prove it, justify it in terms of the facts and figures. Please remember, no politics. No, there was a question. I will answer those questions. Please do not quote even ministers' names, even the president's name, not required, because that the policy, the government, the body, the entity has taken a decision. So you don't need to indicate who has taken that decision. That's the government has taken that decision, right? So it's a government's decision. You are analyzing the government's decision, not a particular person's decision. Not even the president, not even the prime minister, or not even the ministers. The reference list. Extensive academic and practical sources should be used to support the analysis. Referencing should be accurate and conforms to Harvard reference style, which we just discussed earlier as well. Reference list follows alphabetical order. Avoid poor, unreliable sources. Please do not use unreliable sources. Very important. These are the resources, and resources are not limited to these. I have given only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can find more resources, but these are most important, as I believe. The annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, and there are other publications. They have many other publications. If you visit their site, the publications of the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, that is to get global organic fertilizer movements. If you want to get a global data, this is the site, this is the place where you need to visit. The publications of International Water Management Institute. Number 4 is the most important part. Newspaper articles on fertilizer ban and organic agriculture by industry experts. There were so many. I'm not going to, highlight the newspaper's name. You need to find it. There were so many articles given by professors, university lecturers, doctors, and other consultants. If you can get from May first week, even to last week, September end, you will be able to find so many articles. So you can get so many resources, so many ideas, data from those publications. Especially university lecturers, right? Those who are doing it in practice. Then number 4, Journal of Agriculture Sciences, Journal of Food and Agriculture, the Sri Lankan Journal of Agriculture and Ecosystems, some journals. Can find the e-journals, those are available. Publications of the Presidential Secretariat and the Ministry of Agriculture. Yes, the Ministry of Agriculture, they have many documents there, and the Presidential Secretariat as well. That's the end of my presentation. And the time for questions. There are few questions I remember. Let me go through those carefully and reply. Will the recorded session be available later? Mr. Mendes, are you in? Aruna, will this be available for students later?
Yes, I will discuss then we'll communicate that. We'll discuss that.
Okay, fine, please.
Sure.
There was a question from one of the students.
Yes.
Okay, and well, few questions there. A question this is out of my scope. You need to consult. You need to check with the examination department for those. Whether it will be a virtual exam or not. I'm sorry. I'm not in a position to answer those. And there was another one. When will the SL1 special September results be out? I'm sorry, you need to check with the institute. Please share the presentation. Someone has requested. I'm sure the examination department will do it. Please check with them. Aruna, I think this will be published later, right?
We will inform. So we'll inform that separately.
Give me a few minutes, please. There was a question, good one. Can we mention the effect on organic fertilizer importation? Yes, why not? You're free to comment on that as well.
So sound is not clear, sir.
Is it?
Okay, now we can hear.
Right. There was a question. Can we mention the effect on organic fertilizer importation? Yes, you are free to indicate that as well.
Again, sound is not clear, sir. I think.
Can you hear now?
Okay, now we can hear. Now can hear it. Okay.
There was a question. Can we mention the effect on organic fertilizer importation? Yes, you can. Even organic effects. Yes, you can. There was a question, what is the due date of the assignment submission? Please check with the examination department. Yeah, most of the students have requested to share the presentation. No, one question, is it required to analyze 5 guidelines? No, not at all. When I was explaining that, I told you don't need to limit to those 5 guidelines. Right? If you are aware of the subject, if you can read more, you should be able to analyze more. So try to impress the marking examiner. So you should not limit to those 5. When we give figures, is that should be unique? Well, when you are quoting figures, yes, naturally you need to quote the latest figures, which is 2020 as per the annual report. And what I recommend is always not only one particular year. You can't compare, or you can't do a ratio analysis or even a comparison with only one particular year figures. So you take few years figures and do a kind of analysis, right? But take reliable sources. Is there a specific format for the title page? I guess that is there in the study text, if I'm not mistaken. I think it is given there in the study text, because I was asked to give you all guidelines for this particular topic. Therefore, you need to check all other administrative things from the respective division of the institute. Share the presentation, that will be done hopefully. Right. Yes, one good question. How will the 65% marks allocated between economy? Well, the marks allocation, what is given there in the assignment, you follow that, because it has 65 marks for the body. So within that section, how the marking examiner is going to give marks is not disclosed, and we can't in fact ask that, because that is between them only. So what is disclosed is 65% to the body, to the main discussion and analysis area. So you need to cover the respective areas or subdivisions of that chapter adequately to get more marks. Right now, for example, because it's only 20% and 15%, if I remember right, the marks are given to other 2 sections. So you can't load those areas more. You have to, think the number of words and analyze it, giving weightage to the marks. So eventually at the end, you will be getting more marks if you have done a better job in your analysis and discussion area. We talk about unstable? No, not at all, please. We will not go to that level. The government conditions, their stability, those are not relevant for this. You know the reasons, why the government moved to that. There are few reasons, economic reasons as well as some other reasons. So those can be highlighted and explained. Yeah, we don't need to go into that level. Whether the government is stable or unstable, we don't need to go into that level. Conclusion, you need to give your recommendation. Now the government has already taken the decision to go ahead with organic 100%. And there were a few exceptions recently to import nitrogen only and few other pesticides. But so based on the current situation, based on the topic, give your recommendation and conclusion. You can go, if you really want, you can go up to that extreme. Someone has asked whether I should go to the extreme as good or not. Yes, if you want, yes, you can. But remember, the topic is you are trying to support your managing director. Remember, your topic always to find the implications. So the economic implication, that what is the reason behind that? What is behind that topic? The company has already faced, or as an industry, they must have faced certain issues already. That is why they are meeting. And so you need to work within that framework. But if you have substantial evidence to prove that this is perfectly good and this can be done immediately, and there won't be any financial impact, but you have to prove it, right? You have to prove it from the data, available data. So we need to select. No, you don't need to select a company and take a case. No, it is not a case study. This is not a case study. One question, should I select the largest company and analyze? No, economy as a whole. Can we propose to select a company? No, you don't need to propose a company. You don't need to do that. And then this is a discussion heading, how many minimum points to be. Under analysis and discussion heading, how many minimum points to be discussed? Well, now I have discussed many points there. So see whether at least you can, I'm repeating, you are not required to follow what I have discussed only, right? You have done accounts, economics, business statistics, everything you have done in the past, and you are aware of the current economic situation. Those are guidelines only, right? I will not be sharing even this presentation with the marking examiner. So those are guidelines only. So take your own decision. You can take my points, and those are not only points. Should we consider the economic impact only for agribusiness organization, only for impact in Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka entirely, by giving more to the agribusiness, because you are MD and you are working for an agribusiness company, right? So your focus should be agribusiness organizations, and the second, economy as a whole, the entire economy as a whole. But the main focus should be on your industry. I answered, do we need to select the actual agri company? No. Yes, you can give a conclusion, a conclusive decision. Yes, you can, based on your findings and your recommendations. Conclusive ending, yes, can. What do you, when we do an analysis, is it okay to select one major crop? At least one major crop. But now see, two examples I used. I'm repeating, you are not required to use those two examples only. The reason why I selected those two, paddy, which is rice, is a what you call a consumable product. We consume it. We don't import currently, and we produce what we need. And the second one I used tea, because I wanted to touch on export revenue. That is a part of the assignment. That is why I selected those two. There are many. So by selecting one, I don't think, but at least select two: one commodity, one consumable crop, and one export-oriented crop. So that you can, based on those two figures, you can do a trend analysis or future analysis. So do we need to mention about the assumption? No, you are not required, because the question says you are a business analyst. So you will be giving him as a business analyst. You are, you have the knowledge as a business analyst, and your background is accounts. So you are giving data to your MD. So assumptions are not required. Plantation company, no. Well, I have seen this question many times now, a conclusion, whether should use or not use. Well, students, please read those articles. Once, when you read those articles, other references, you will be able to find a conclusion as recommended by the experts of the industry, right? You are not an expert. I am not an expert in agrochemicals or agricultural sector, but there are many conclusions and recommendations given by those experts based on the situation, based on the data, right? So you will find the answer there, unless if you have done a detailed study in this area, and if you are in the position to give your own solution. Spreading, can we discuss the reason? Yes, why not? A good good finding. Disease spreading on rubber. Yes, very good. If you can, it was, I guess it's very recently it was revealed. If it is because of purely because of the chemicals, not using chemicals, yes, why not? Write on that. You can. So you can take the export product as rubber in that case, if you are very thorough with that. Right? And also, please, students, our objective is not to analyze one particular crop and you know, show what is going to happen for that industry. No, this is agriculture sector as a whole. But we can't analyze the entire product or harvest, or entire products, and then give an answer for that. So therefore, you need to select an element of our industry, and we need to apply it to the whole industry. You know, may not be very scientific if you take certain products, but if you take major products, which can at least take the majority of the industry, you are writing on behalf of the industry. You are taking that product in a product or two products on behalf of the industry. And Harvard referencing, please check that we use Harvard referencing in text and for our some other exams, even in text and the final references. That's bibliography. So I'm sure the guidelines must be given there in the study text, and if not, you need to check with your lecturer. It's our referencing. You need to analyze the impact of the company. No, what do you mean? Do we need to analyze that? Yeah, you can start with the company's position, but you don't need to write a lot about that. Say if you are taking, you don't need to mention the company's name, right? If you now suppose this particular company, if you are working for a tea, say a tea plantation company, and what will happen to your bottom line and what has already happened to your bottom line, not figures, you don't need. In terms of percentages, you can analyze it. And then that is your company. And then you can take it to the industry, tea industry, for example. Then the decline in tea industry, what is the impact to the country, national budget, and to the country? Now, take step by step ahead. But you don't need to indicate the figures. Otherwise, you have to, analyze. You need to take one of the annual reports and analyze it. No, we don't expect that level. Take one company and what are the challenges those companies are facing, that your company is facing, and similarly, you can take that to the industry. Similar to your company, others must be facing the same, because the chemical fertilizer is not limited only to your company. It's limited to all. It's not available to all other companies. Yes, well, now few have requested this can be limited to one crop, as long as if you can a good base. Your mic. Please mute your mic. Can you do it from your end? Can you do it from your end?
Yes, the answer.
Dilhara, can you mute mics from your end? Okay. So the question whether you can limit to one crop, yes, as long as you can prove the impact to the economy, to the company first, and to the economy as a whole. I don't mind. Yes. Yes, that's question 2 a few times. Do we have more points to question? Yes, someone has taken this country Bhutan. Yes, I know. They are, as I explained, they had a plan to convert 100% by 2020. That was an 8-year plan, but they could not do it. And those are the practical issues. Those are the issues they have seen in practice. So right about those, the benchmark what I indicated there was you need to select a country where the conditions are similar to us, right? Whether that country is a successful one, but as it is, there is no country, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. There is no country that has gone to 100% organic still. So, but for us to compare, there should be a country, and from that country you should be able to get what do you call guidelines or systems that they are following. Well, literature review, it is there in your study text as well as a major part. So you have to follow that part. You just can't ignore the literature review and do the analysis. Yeah. Someone has asked, what are the agricultural products we need to consider? You should know it. I gave two, one export oriented, one consumable commodity product, but there are so many. Should be able to. Oops. I'm sorry, there was an interruption. I'm back now. I hope you all can hear now. In a directors forum, there will be question and answer session. So do we have to give list of possible question? No, not at all. You don't need. That's your wish. Someone has asked whether we can use LKR or US dollars figures. You can use any form of currency, because most of these important figures are given in dollars as well as in LKR in the central bank report. A SWOT Well, I don't think so. We don't need to go into that level. Well, there was an idea of organic fertilizer cannot be used in the tea plantation. That kind of a idea, but this is what you need to. This is what you need to write. These are the points. If you are aware of those who are already working for plantation companies, I'm sure you must have a thorough knowledge on those areas. So put those into the discussion forum and argue on your points. TV programs, if I'm not mistaken, that is also given as one of the options in Harvard referencing word option, right? Interviews, I remember, yes, interviews are there as one of the options. So I don't think it's so. TV programs is an interview. So interviews can be quoted since that option is available there in Harvard referencing drop-down menu. Referencing drop-down menu. Strategies, yes. How to overcome? Yes, you need to write those strategies to overcome the situation. Agricultural product other than tea and paddy, what else? You need to decide. I can't tell. There are many. I took those two, right? Literature, yes. Details gathered from discussions, if those discussions are relevant, and if those ideas are from the experts of the industry, so you can take it as interview results, right? And quote accordingly. So I think I have answered many. Let me see. Well, the demand, as even the question, it says the company has earned a good name for the product quality, and you can capitalize that. If in the absence of chemical fertilizer and fertilizer, what will happen to the product quality? Right. So when the quality is less, we all know that the demand will be less. So if you can formulate that kind of a thing, with supportive data, that's good. Don't take one company's annual report and take those figures. You are not required to evaluate those figures. We are talking about strategies along with figures of the industry, not of one particular company. I'm repeating, don't take one company's annual report, their performance, and don't try to write those figures. You are not required to analyze figures of that particular company. References, of course. Do we need to mention references? Yes, you are. Recorded version, I'm sorry, student, you need to check with the institute. I can't answer for that. Yes, I think covered everything in the chat box, and there are a few more in Q&A. Let me check that as well. Yes, TV program, I answered. articles of hard copies need to refer. Yes, you know, certain articles you can find hard copies, if especially past paper, newspapers, you can find hard copies. If not, if those are not available, still e-papers are available, I guess, in the internet, right? So select one of those options. How many marks you should get? Please refer the study text. Reference list is enough in text as well as the final reference. How to link economic issues to the particular company in order to convince them. You are not going to convince the MD. He is fully aware of the situation because he is a scientist. He knows what the conditions, the current status of the company and the productivity of the company in the future, output. So what you need to analyze is, if you take your company as one of the examples, if I'm going to do a less production of X amount, even these percentages are given there in many articles now. By what percentage the crop will be reduced in the coming season, or on a monthly basis if it is kind of a thing, or annual basis. Those figures are revealed by scientists already and agroeconomists. So if that is the case, what will happen to the country? What will happen to the economy as a whole? What will happen to our balance of payment, current account, trade deficit? And after that, it's like there are so many effects: inflation, exchange rate, everything. So you need to analyze those areas. I think I have covered everything. There's another question. Anything of new investments by agribusiness organization? Well, that is one of the options of new investment in agribusiness. In fact, the government is planning to promote. They are planning to get even the help of some other countries to promote that in terms of investments. So, but our core should be the impact of this decision. Like those are, yes, if you can write as other objectives, the other outcomes, but the key should be on the products, the loss of production and the economic impact on that. And very importantly, if the production is not sufficient for our consumption, then what is going to happen? Take especially paddy, take rice. Now, as it is, the production is sufficient for us to survive. 5 metric tons of 5 million metric tons per annum. So the other consequences you can analyze. If that is not sufficient, then no other option. We need to import. Then what will happen to our trade deficit? Does 3,000 word count include the reference list? And I think those are not included. I'm sure those are given there in your study text. Please read the study text. The word count is for any other exams, as I know, it's excluding the content and the reference list. I'm sure must be same for yours as well. Those must be given there in your study text. Yes, I think I have covered all the questions. Let me conclude my presentation with this quote. It always seems impossible until it is done, by Nelson Mandela. Thank you for listening, and good luck